Hi, besties. Thank you for joining me here at the Rae of Life podcast. I am your host, Rae, and I'm so glad that you're here with me today. On today's episode, we are going to be chatting and talking about a few things that I think you should have in your life if you are navigating something that is challenging for your overall health, or maybe you found something during a self-breast exam that warrants a trip to the doctor. I'm going to share with you some things that I think you need to incorporate into your daily life and daily routine that could be helpful for you for the next visit to the doctor. So I have some recommendations, some tips, some things that I think you absolutely need to stay away from. And I will be sharing with you at the end how to give yourself a self-breast exam. I have some personal recommendations on things that I think you need to do when you're giving yourself a self-breast exam that would make it more thorough, more detailed, and also want to talk to you about how you can make sure you're doing those on a regular basis and not letting too much time pass by in between your self-breast exams. If you're new here, thank you for clicking on this video and joining us here at the Rae of Life podcast. I am your host, Rae. If we're not besties yet, maybe we're meeting for the first time here on this episode, or maybe we're still getting to know each other. Either way, I will tell you a little bit about myself before we continue on. I am a 3-time breast cancer survivor. My first diagnosis came at the very young age of 31. My second breast cancer diagnosis came at the age of 33. And my third battle of breast cancer came at the age of 42. I did find out during the testing and diagnosis phase of my third breast cancer that I have the BRIP1 gene mutation, which gave us a little bit of answers to a little bit about why I have had 3 very different diagnoses of breast cancers. Each of them carried their different diagnosis. They were not related to each other, and it's very rare, extremely rare for somebody to have 3 different types of breast cancers. So we will go into some of those things on a different episode. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about myself. I am extremely passionate about sharing my journey. If you know me, you know that I am an open book. I feel like knowledge is power, and if I learned something along the way, or maybe I am sharing my mistakes or things that I would do differently had I known these things before, then I would absolutely want to share that with my besties so that you have some information that could be helpful for you if you are navigating the scary world of breast cancer, which I hope not. But if you clicked on this podcast, then I have a nudge that you are here for a reason. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, it may seem like I am going about this a little bit backwards, but before we get into the self-breast exam, I first want to talk about some things that I think you absolutely need to be adding into your daily life. Maybe some things are off with your health, or you're worried that you might need to go to the doctor's office, or maybe breast cancer runs in your family. Mine did not. Mine came from a gene mutation, which was not hereditary, but sometimes breast cancer is hereditary, and you might be worried that, maybe your mother had breast cancer, or your grandmother, or somebody on your dad's side, and you feel like you might need to go get checked out before you go to the doctor's office, before you get to that appointment. If you don't already have an app to track your menstrual cycle, I want you to pause this podcast, go and download an app now and get it onto your device. Okay, so what you need is an app to track your menstrual cycle. Why? Because we're females, we're women, and every time a female goes to a doctor's office, what is the one question that they always ask us? What was the first day of your last menstrual cycle? Every single time. I don't know how many times I've heard that question. Okay, so you need the app. You need to make sure you know the first day of your last menstrual cycle. And you also need to know if it's regular. All of those things can be tracked in this app. I've used the app before. A lot of women might already have the app on your phone or your device, because some ladies like to track it if, let's say, they're using it as a form of birth control. Or maybe you are trying to have a baby and you need to track your menstrual cycle so that you can get pregnant. Or maybe your period and your menstrual cycle is irregular and you need an app to track those things. Okay, so this app is going to come in handy not only for the first day of your last menstrual cycle, but you want to make sure that you're making note and you're keeping track of anything that is out of the ordinary. Okay, so let's say you menstruate like you are 30 days on the day, all the time, all your life. But at some point, you realize, oh, it's been like 32 days and I haven't had my menstrual cycle. I'm on birth control, so I can't be pregnant. What's going on here? Or maybe you always have your menstrual cycle for 3 days. It's always been 3 days. And all of a sudden, it's lasting for 5 days. Or maybe you were light on your cycle before and now you're heavy. Anything that's changed for you within your menstrual cycle, you want to make a notation in the notes part of this app. Okay, so not only are you looking for the day, any changes, and you want to make sure you're making note of anything around that time of the month that is different now than it was 6 or even 3 months ago. Things that might make you stop and think for a minute. All of those things, put them in your app, okay? And after you have the app, we're going to talk a little bit later about how you could use it in a different way. But now that we got the app out of the way, I would say if you are not the type of person that journals, as soon as you're done watching this podcast, I want you to run out to Home Goods or TJ Maxx, find yourself the cutest, most inspiring journal you could find in the store and get it for yourself, okay? Because if you don't journal, you need to start, like yesterday. Okay, so I want you to get a journal, and you are going to make this journal your me time. And you are going to find as many opportunities for me time as you can as you are going through this journey or this period of time in your life. So in your very pretty journal that you're going to pick up after you are done with this podcast, you are going to start to journal about all of the things that you are grateful for. And before we dive into that too deeply, I do want to say, yes, there is times in this journey in your life where you are going to be worried, you're going to be scared, your mind is going to wander, and you're going to need to get some really heavy things off of your chest, okay? Yes, absolutely, 100%, you could put that in your journal, but that is not going to be the focus of this journal, okay? If you have nobody to talk to and you need to get those worried, scared thoughts out of your head, then write it down and move on. Because this journal is going to be all about all of the things in your life that make you happy, everything that makes you smile. What are you grateful for when you wake up in the morning? What are you looking forward to in your life at this period in time? What are your goals? What are your dreams? And write about all of those happy things in this journal and find as many opportunities as you can, because what we're doing here is you are reminding yourself what you're fighting for, okay? What are you trying to hold on to? What do you look forward to? That's going to be the focus of your really pretty journal, and you're going to write all of those happy things in there, because when you are navigating through something like breast cancer in your life, there are going to be some really hard days ahead. There are going to be some days where you're like, gosh, is my doctor going to call me? Are my test results back? I mean, I don't know how many times I picked up my phone to see if I had missed a call or if anything went to my chart from my doctor on the test result, and it was like taking over my life. So those are the tough days. And then maybe later on down the road, if you are facing chemotherapy, radiation, surgeries, you know, medications, all of those things, like those could be very challenging. And I'm not going to lie, there are days where you feel like you just can't do this anymore, or what if I just gave up and I didn't go through with this treatment, okay? And that's when you want to pull out your really pretty journal and remind yourself what you're fighting for. Remind yourself what you're grateful for, what made you happy last week, or what were you looking forward to at the end of your treatment, okay? And you're going to read that and you're going to ground yourself and you're going to remember what you're fighting for and what you're holding on to. Because when you're faced with something like breast cancer, you want to focus on the positive. You don't want to think about anything negative. And when you find that hard, read your really pretty journal, okay? So don't forget to go out and grab yourself the cutest journal on the planet and start journaling. And before we get into the self-breast exam, my biggest recommendation, if you don't take anything away from this podcast, take this away with you, okay? Google is not your friend. Don't get into a scroll hole, okay? On those nights where your mind is wandering and you can't sleep, the last thing you need to be doing is picking up your phone and getting on the internet, or picking up your MacBook and getting on the internet, okay? Stay away from the internet. Not your friend. Grab your journal. Read your journal, write in your journal, but don't get into a scroll hole. Don't sit on the internet and self-diagnose yourself. I mean, I learned the hard way, because I don't know how many times I self-diagnosed myself with the worst form of breast cancer out there. I had it. I was certain. I was certain that I was not going to live to my next doctor's appointment sometimes. So don't get on the internet. There are so many forums out there, and some of them can be helpful at times. I'm not going to say that they aren't helpful. They can be helpful every once in a while. But there are forums that ladies go to for, I found this. Do you think I have this type of breast cancer? So-and-so died at the age of 42. Those are the kinds of things you want to stay away from. Or what you don't want to do is self-diagnose yourself before you get to the doctor. Because what if you got to the doctor and all you have is a cyst? And you're going to think, wow, I don't know how many nights I wasted on the internet, sleepless nights, where I could have been resting and making sure that I am giving my body the most rest and taking care of myself during this period of time in my life. So take care of yourself. Remind yourself of the happy things and stay away from the internet, okay? Wow, I am glad I started with that first, because that felt really heavy. And I just feel like light. It was good to get that out, which is why I decided to talk about that first. Aren't you glad, ladies, that we talked about all of that in the beginning, and now we could learn how to give ourselves a good, thorough self-breast exam? Okay, so in your app, the app where you track your menstrual cycle, you're also going to track when you give yourself the self-breast exam, okay? And a good time to do it is during your menstrual cycle. So if you're menstruating and you haven't done a self-breast exam in a while, then on the first day of your menstrual cycle, write down, okay, self-breast exam. Let's use today's date, December 18th, 2023. Gave myself an exam. And you're going to put that in your app. Once you put it down in your app, set a reminder on your phone. Use your calendar on your phone or your device, anything that can give you a reminder, and give yourself a time frame on when you could give your next one. Okay, at minimum, you should be giving 2 self-breast exams a year. But I would recommend, just me personally, because I like to know my body and I like to make sure I know what's going on everywhere, that I recommend every 3 months. Give yourself a self-breast exam, okay? So set your alarm, whatever you feel like you can do, but don't ever go longer than 6 months on your self-breast exam. Set those reminders, okay? And once you have your routine, your reminder, and you're doing your exam, okay, there's 2 different ways you can do it. And there's one where you could raise your arm up. Okay, so on my left side is where I've had most, that's where all 3 of my cancers have been. I had 1 on my right side, 3 of them have been on my left. But you want to make sure that you raise your arm up. I can only raise my arm up this high because I have cording nerve damage, lymphedema, all of the things over here. So I can't raise all the way up. On my right side I can. Okay, so you want to raise your arm up. Okay, maybe I'll demonstrate on this side for demonstration purposes. So put your arm up, and what you're going to do is you're going to take the tips of your finger, either 2 or 3, at least 2, doesn't matter, at least you have it, okay? And you're going to go in many little circles. But what you're going to do is you're going to work it all the way around. So go in many little circles, apply light pressure. And I like to go in the full border of my armpit. Okay, so you're going to go all the way around the outside of the armpit. And then you're going to make the circles around a little bit smaller and smaller until you get to the middle. Once you get to the middle of your armpit, you're going to want to get in all the nooks and crannies of your armpit. And at that point, when you get up in there, if you want, you could have your arm down. That's why I said there are 2 ways. You could relax. Like instantly when I say that, I tense up. Relax. Automatically tense. But relax. Have your arm down. And then get your fingers up in there and apply pressure and get in all the nooks and crannies. Okay, once you finish in the armpit area, you're going to want to go around the outer part of your breast. Okay? And then you're going to make the circles smaller and smaller, and each time as you're going around the whole way, you're going to be using your fingertips, and you're going to go in circular light pressure all the way around. If you feel anything either in the armpit or in the breast, that makes you stop and pause and think, oh, that's different, I've never felt that before. Okay, then you're going to want to go around the area, and say you feel like a little nub or a little lump right here, then you want to circle it a couple of times, okay? And when you circle it, apply pressure all the way around. What you're feeling for is it round? Is it oval? Is it hard to the touch? Is it soft to the touch? Does it move? Does it stay still? Is it deep? Is it right at the surface? Okay, and you're gonna jot all of those things down. Any characteristics you know about it, either put it in your app in the notes portion or put it in your journal. You want to write it down, and you want to track it, and you want to date it, okay? But just go around it a couple times, and then maybe right where you feel it, put a little bit more pressure in there, go a little bit deeper in the pressure, and start to describe it to yourself and make all of the notes. Bring that with you to your doctor's appointment. When you're done with that self-breast exam, say you found something, you're going to call, email your doctor, and you're going to get in to be seen and get a referral, okay? But if you made it through and you found nothing, yay for nothing, but that's not the end of it, because you're going to go back and check in 3 months. And it's not because I'm paranoid or I'm worried, but we need to know our body, and we need to know changes, okay? And also, I am a huge advocate for doing this early, okay? A lot of, before the research, I mean, when I was 31, you couldn't get in for a mammogram under the age of 40 because they're like, oh, you're too young. Well, now, like, a lot of women are diagnosed with breast cancer at a very young age. And when you are younger is when it is more aggressive, and it could be more fatal the younger we are, okay? So start doing these self-breast exams. I would say by the time you're 30, do your first one. Maybe when you're 30, you don't need to do it every 3 months. Maybe twice a year is fine at your young 30s. But the closer you get to your 40s, you want to make sure that you're at least doing it every 3 months and you're doing it regular. Do not let too much time pass in between breast exams. If you're, like, I would say my age, I'm 46 today, and I was at a point where I was comfortable and complacent in my life. In between my second breast cancer and my third, I wasn't giving myself regular exams after a while, and I kind of was at this point where I'm like, okay, I can't be paranoid. I mean, the ladies are fake, okay, 100% fake. I mean, I've had 2 reconstructions. This is my 3rd set of breasts I'm on, and in my second breast cancer, not only did they remove my tissue, all of my breast tissue, they removed the first layer of my muscle and the majority of my skin on my chest. So when it was all said and done, the tissue that I do have underneath the layer of skin is donated tissue and fake tissue that was like, I think it was, I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, there's barely anything there. So I thought, I don't need to give myself breast exams all the time. I mean, there's no breast tissue there. Wrong. 100% wrong. I had my 3rd tumor with almost zero breast tissue left. So it can happen. So just the point is, don't get comfortable and don't fall into a pattern where you're not doing it as regular as you should. Okay? And track everything. If you found this helpful, please let me know. And if you have anything you would like to learn about in relation to breast cancer, send me a message. Get active in the chat. I am an open book. Like I said, I like to share everything, and I would like to know what you're hoping that I will share next, so that I could be as helpful as I can be to you, because girlfriends and besties help each other out. So I want to know what you're hoping to hear and learn from me. Thank you for watching this video podcast. I hope you found it helpful. And I'm sure by now you are already planning to run out and get yourself a journal after you've downloaded an app to track your menstrual cycle. And I can't wait to see you back next time on the Rae of Life podcast. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye, besties.